everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Fountain of Light. Here today, I have a very special guest joining us. I actually met her at work. She's a big supporter of the LAPS Pregnancy Resource Center. And so, introducing you guys to Madelyn.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to come. I'm very excited to talk more about the pro-life world. It's like my favorite thing. My name is Madelyn. I was a student at USC, but I recently graduated this past May, so only a couple weeks ago. Throughout my time at USC, I was part of the pro-life club known as Trojans for Life, and I led it for the past 2 years. So it's been something that's been such a great part of my college experience. Yeah.
So apart from that, what career did you study for?
Yeah. So I just finished with my bachelor's degree in international relations. So a lot of people are like, what is that? And I describe it
Tell us.
Yes, as a blend of like politics, economics, and national security. So I've just been studying all those things in the past couple of years.
And would you say that's had contribution as well as the pro-life club?
Definitely. I think even though when people would think about like international relations and pro-life, you'd be like, okay, those things are not related. But I think just within both of these worlds, industries, etc., you're dealing with people. And so I think both things have taught me to just, understand people more from different perspectives.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot more profound, right? In a more profound way.
Definitely.
I see. And then how's your ministry life? Are you involved in any ministry at church? And then how's your family life as well?
Yes. So I'm very involved with my church back at school, actually, USC Catholic Center. So I got to get more involved in that over the past 2 years. Honestly, I look at my pro-life work growing and then my faith growing, and they both coincide, which I do not think is a coincidence, but nonetheless, they both, took off around the same time. And so in addition to my pro-life work and doing also just like bringing pro-life ministry into the Catholic Center in a stronger way, I've been able to help out, like I sacristan, help out with some of the other orgs, and just lead Bible studies, all of that.
It's amazing. You're deep in there.
Yes.
And then as far as family, would you say you're very family oriented, or do you have family members that maybe helped like involve you in this ministry? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Very family oriented. I'm very close with my family, especially my two sisters, both older, but we do a lot together. And I grew up Catholic, so my family's Catholic, and so it's been nice to grow both in my faith and all the work, be able to share all the work that I do with them.
They must be so proud, I imagine. Yeah. I
think so. I hope so.
I hope so. I'm sure they are. And okay, so going back to, it's Trojans for Life, right? At USC.
Yes.
It's 2 years. So how did that come about? How did that happen? Like, did you walked into a place and they're like, hey, come join the club, or share with us?
A little bit different. So sometimes when I think back to how it all played out, it's actually, it's crazy, but it's not. So the club started, it got brought back. So it existed about, I guess maybe over 10 years ago now, that someone started a pro-life club with Students for Life. And then the club died out, and it didn't get brought back until spring of 2022. And so I ended up joining, not at the beginning when it was forming, but the semester after. So I joined fall of 2022. So I was there with the very early stages. And then
after the pandemic too.
After the pandemic, exactly. And after the Dobbs case. So that was also a very pivotal moment. But going back to that, I never thought that it was something I was going to do. A lot of people were like, have you been involved in pro-life work since high school? Did you grow up with it? All of this stuff. And for me, the answer is no. It wasn't until college that I got started with everything.
Really?
Yeah. And then even then people asked me, well, like, what prompted you to look for Trojans for Life? Because it had been something on my heart that I'd always been drawn to. I would watch videos about people debating like pro-life topics, and I'd be like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe there's something that I could do similar at USC, and I didn't know a club existed. So I remember talking to our youth minister at the time, or campus minister at the time. And I was like, is there a pro-life club here? And she's like, actually, yeah. And she told me about it. And then I went to one of the meetings, and the rest is history. So.
When did you start kind of knowing or becoming more aware of this happening, like abortions and the realities of it?
I would say, honestly, it wasn't until college that I really started to understand the issue. Because I grew up Catholic, I'd always been pro-life, I guess you could say. But I didn't know what that meant. So if you'd asked me I don't know, like sophomore year of high school, and would have been like, so are you pro-life? I'd be like, yeah. But if they would have asked me what an abortion was, couldn't answer. Why I was pro-life, couldn't answer. It was just something that I'd grown up with, so I just knew that I took on that label, I guess you could say. And then it wasn't until the issue of abortion started getting more popular in the news because of the Dobbs case, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, where I remember there was... I was on Instagram, right? And someone had posted on their story, like, it was after the overturning, or no, I think it was actually when the case got leaked, or the announcement or whatever, the decision got leaked. That's a better way of saying it. They were like, the post was something like, I'm tired of, all these pro-lifers staying silent. Like, if this is what you believe, but it was opposed. So it was like, then just show yourself, like, don't be a coward kind of thing. And so I was like, well, I'm pro-life, so I'll answer her message. So I responded back. I swiped up on her story, and I was like, I'm pro-life. And then it started this kind of back and forth debate. Wow. But at that point, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what I was like. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I looked back, and I was like... And I was like, oh, and the debaters are tough, okay? Yeah. They're a little aggressive, too, sometimes. It was, and it was over the course of days. So it was just like messaging back and forth on Instagram of just our different positions on the issue. But I was not well versed, and I look back and I'm like, oh, there are some things that I probably shouldn't have said in that way. But I mean, obviously you live and you learn. Yes. But that was the moment where I'm like, okay, maybe this is something that I should actually be more knowledgeable about. And so from there is so that was the summer before me joining Trojans for Life, because I joined in the fall, and it had sparked something further, because before that it had been like, okay, like I would just watch some videos here and there, but I wasn't really retaining the information, more just watching it for entertainment. And then after that was when I was like, okay, let me get more into this. And then I was starting to look at it more. And it honestly had always been something on my heart, so I was drawn towards it. So.
That's very amazing. That's an amazing testimony. Because it's so impactful that it took you to being involved for 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, okay, in those 2 years, would you say, can you share with us maybe an experience that deeply impacted you, that kind of shocked you, that kind of... gave you more drive? I mean, we know God, right? He gives us that grace, right? You need grace, I think, to fight for life.
Absolutely.
And so, but there's always something, there's always, experiences that we live or things that we hear, we see. What's one of yours?
And a personal experience that I'd had just with really understanding the overall issue, because to me, pro-life doesn't just mean protecting the unborn. That's obviously a huge part of it, but it means seeing the value and dignity of every human person. And that starts with yourself. And so I remember I was at the March for Life, but the one in LA, so One Life LA. And I was marching through, and I just remember reading this sign that said, it was a quote from Book of Jeremiah, where it's a really famous one.
Oh,
it's like before, I'm going to butcher it right now, but like, it's like, when you were in the womb, I knew you. Like I knitted you, I created you. You're wonderfully made. That's like a paraphrase of it. But I was reading that sign. I was marching, and we were praying the rosary as we were going along near downtown. And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, we're all known by God. We're all wonderfully made. But why is it so hard for me to accept that about myself? And thinking like, here I am at this march, and I'm fighting for the lives of those who like aren't born, who can't even take their own breath, and I see value in them. But why is it so hard to see value in myself? And it was kind of this like moment that I felt like God was really speaking to my heart and saying like, this is so much more. And that honestly, that like every person is just so wonderfully made. And I think that was a personal encounter that I had of like, okay, if I'm feeling this, then what about others? And like, how can we share this message that every single like human life is valuable, especially when abortion is happening every day? And if we say that life is valuable, shouldn't all lives be protected? And that is what sort of drove me to get closer to the issue personally, like with my heart. And then from there, I was able to also just expand my work and also start meeting women who were in crisis pregnancies, who had abortions. And then that gave me a closer, more personal look of the people who are actually impacted by the issue of abortion itself.
Living all those experiences. And then what you shared about, like fighting for others, but you needed, I think the Lord needed you to see that value within yourself, because that makes so much sense. Like, how can we fight for something if we're not seeing it in ourselves?
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And so can you also share with us a little bit of maybe, I imagine being in the club, right?
Yeah.
You speak to other students in the college campus.
Yes.
So I imagine sometimes you don't get the best reactions.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sure there's a moment where maybe you have felt discouraged, right? And maybe even hurt, or maybe just tired, maybe just, because it's a lot to take on, you know. This is a human issue.
Yeah.
And we're human, and so it's like we're not robots. Like, we feel, right? We feel for others. And so what would you say has helped you in those times of discouragement, that maybe you've thought of walking away from this, or what's something that's helped you?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I have it's like 2 stories that I have for that.
Share with us.
But I'll first answer the question. I think ultimately what keeps me going is my spiritual life and prayer. I think that's the root of everything, of just your interior life and having like your relationship with God and him giving me the strength. Because I mean, like you said, we're all human. I'm imperfect. I get drained. I get tired. I get scared. Like all of these things. And what keeps me through is knowing that like ultimately it's God who's fighting the battle through me. And so it's not so much that I have to be perfectly ready for everything, but more so that I can just show up and that he'll act through me. Beautiful. So that's brought me a lot of comfort. And there are 2, like, I guess, ways that that God has spoken to me through other people to keep me going. And the first one is like, okay, going back to what you said about talking to people on campus. So for context, I'll bring a little context. So Trojans for Life, one of the things we do as a club is we dialogue with students on campus about the issue of abortion. So what we'll do every Friday, we'll set up a table that has a question. It's pretty basic question. It says, do you believe that abortion should remain legal? And there's different jars. There's 3, and there's candy on the table, so you can come up and vote where you think, or your answer with the question. So there's yes, I think abortion should remain legal. Maybe, I'm not sure. And then no. And so we're right in front of campus. So as people walk going to class, coming back from class, they'll stop by, vote, and then we'll start talking about their views. So we'll be like, why did you vote this way? As a school in LA, secular school, majority of the answers are yes, abortion should be legal. So, which is great, because those are the people that we want to talk to. And so, yes, you're right. So, but because of that, we have a whole range of people who come. We've been very blessed, and I think part of it is the way that we approach it. We definitely come in a more compassionate way. We're not yelling, blaming, or like trying to shame people for their opinions, but more so just trying to find truth, find common ground. And because of that, we haven't had that many crazy times. I could probably count on one hand like how many volatile people or conversations that I've had. But personally, I've conversed with over 400 people. Wow. So it's not that many, or not that many people that are intense.
Out of the 400?
Out of the 400, yeah. It's very
I'll take
small
it.
Yeah. And but within those people, because of these conversations, I've also had people come to the table who have had abortions. And it's always just a very, I guess, emotional conversation to have. And usually when people who have come and share with me that they've had an abortion themselves, I don't try to do apologetics on them, because you love the person first, because ultimately that's our goal. Yes. But I have to say that it's been those experiences where it usually goes around, I guess the conversations usually follow a similar pattern. So it'll start with someone coming up and being like, oh, like, I've had an abortion, it was the best decision I've ever made, all of this stuff. And then as we continue the conversation, the tone starts to shift. And a lot of the time, like, they'll share a little bit more if they're comfortable. I don't press, but and you just see a lot of pain. And I think that's one of the things that keeps me going, is knowing that even if I don't see the fruits of my labor in this life, that maybe a conversation that I had could have sparked a seed in someone, and maybe led them to think if they found themselves in a crisis pregnancy that they would turn to abortion, and it could prevent them from feeling a similar type of pain. So that's one of the things of just knowing that the work that I do, it's not for me, it's for something greater. And knowing that if it could just impact one person in a good way, then it's worth it. And And the second is similar along those realms, of when this was a moment, you asked me of when I feel discouraged. And there was one moment in particular that I was really feeling it. For a couple months, I'd been trying to do a pro-life event at the Catholic Center at USC. And it was something that, I wanted to do for a while. I was in talks, but just things kept on happening to where it just wasn't coming into play. Scheduling, random things.
One thing after
wasn't-
another,
exactly,
you're just like, is this supposed to happen or not?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know. And I was really frustrated, all this stuff. And then it was the week of One Life LA, and it was the recognized day of prayer for the legal protection of the unborn. And I got a message from someone who worked at the Catholic Center, and he was like, hey, are we doing an event for this? And I was like, no. I was like, are we? I don't know. And he was like, we should. And I'm like, okay, because I've been trying for so long, and like nothing was working out. I'm like, I guess this is my chance, because before that I'd been praying. I'm like, if it's your will, like it will happen at your timing, and this was his timing.
And that exact day,
yeah. And so I was like, okay, I have like 4 days to put together an event. In 4 days, I was like, I have to write a 20-minute talk. I have to like get people to come, like all this stuff. But the thing is that the part that I was most discouraged and scared about wasn't necessarily like the writing part, the speaking part, but the attendance. I was like, I'm so scared that no one's going to come, because it was very last minute. There was no advertising. Getting people to come to pro-life events at a secular college campus, not easy. And so all these things, I was like, I remember I was talking on the phone with my mom, and I'm like, I'm really happy that this is happening, but I think no one's going to come. And she was like, that's the least of your worries. Like, she's like, put it in God's hands, and whoever is supposed to be there will be there. And she's like, even if it's just one person, it means that the event was for that one person. And I was like,
your mother.
No, for real. She's the best. And so I was like, okay, and I was like, okay, I did my best. I put in all my work. All I can do now is just continue my yes and show up and do the best that I can. So that's what I did. And luckily, more people came than I thought. So I think we had about like 12 to 15. So it was like a small group, but I was expecting like 3. So I was very excited. Amazing. I was like, this is the best. So I finished my talk, but during it, I'd recognized most of the people who had come because they were from the Catholic Center, so I knew most of them. But there was this one woman who had come in, and I remember just thinking, I'm like, okay, like that's cool. Like someone else came. I wonder how she found out about the event. But then after she came up to talk to me, and she was like, hey, I just wanted to say that I really loved your talk. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's really sweet. And she's like, can I share something with you? And I was like, okay. And she's like, I've actually had multiple abortions, and I don't really know what to do. Like, she's like, she was like in a lot of emotional pain, and she's like, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to turn to. And I was like, oh my gosh, like first of all, I was like, thank you so much for sharing that and for your courage to even come here. And, we were able to connect her with, some other resources for healing, like Rachel's Vineyard, and some of the other things that we have here in LA to help, post-abortive women. But reflecting on all of that after, I realized I was like, she was my one person.
Yes.
Like, if I hadn't done that event, if the event were sooner, I don't know if she would have come. If it were...
Like, would she have received those resources?
Exactly.
All that pain, like... Because a lot of times, like, that would be the first step is sharing that.
Yeah.
Something so painful, and she shared with you. So it's like, this whole event for her. Like,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
so worth it.
It's like everything it was so last minute, but it was that day that she could come. She showed up. And I don't know how she heard about the event, because she wasn't a student. She was probably from the area, but... When I say there was no advertising, there was like no advertising. So I don't know.
Like a few days.
Yeah, we had a few days. Maybe she saw it on Instagram. I don't know. But it was just one of those moments where I was like, praise be to God, because that was like, it was divine providence. Absolutely. Yeah. And it was just another reminder, I think, that God gave me, because before that I was also feeling discouraged of like, is what I'm doing, does it matter? And then this like very tangible reminder that's like, yes, that even if it's just one person, it's worth it.
Yeah. And like, equally, every life matters. And so it's, we fight, for the vulnerable, the babies in the womb, but we fight for their mothers as well.
Absolutely.
And so, this mother who showed up, who had these this traumatic event happened. Can you imagine, like, maybe just from showing up that day, you always see, like, the conversions, like the abortionists used to commit abortions, the people who used to work at Planned Parenthood. You see how they fight for life now, and it's like, wow. So hopefully, there's a seed there, and I'm sure there is. That's amazing, Madelyn. Wow. No, it's so real how, you share of discouragement, and what you said, you're like, does it even matter? It's like, no, yeah, God is with us. And it's a grace, you guys. It's a grace to be able to do this. And I love you perfectly. You word it so perfectly, which is just show up. Just show up, and God will do the rest. And so something with that advice you gave us, what's some more advice you can give maybe college students who want to be a part of this pro-life movement, but maybe they're a little scared because they're like, oh, maybe they don't have the knowledge, or what are the people going to think, or just they have that yearning for doing more. What kind of advice can you give them to motivate them to join?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question and so important.
Yeah.
I think back to this quote from Saint Joan of Arc. It's very similar for what we were talking about before, but her quote says, "Act and God will act." And so I think that first piece of advice is to just, if it's something that you feel that's on your heart, find a group of people and just, it can be very simple. You don't have to be talking to a million people or even going out on campus like we do just yet, but even forming a group and talking about what it means to be pro-life, looking deeper into the issue so that you're educated and knowledgeable about it. I think that that's a number one step that anyone can do. You can do that alone. You can do that with friends, because so much of the battle, I think, in today's point in time is a misunderstanding of the issue and also a misunderstanding of what an abortion is. So if you can be one of the people who knows what it is so that when it comes up in conversation, you can talk about it in an educated way and inform people about its truths. And not a lot of people are doing that. So if you're able to do that, that in itself is going to make such a big difference. And if you feel a call beyond that, than just, gaining knowledge, I would say go pray in front of a Planned Parenthood. There are too many, in my opinion. But, even if just going out, I would recommend bringing a friend so you're not alone, just for safety issues. But praying a rosary in front and praying for the reposal of souls, for the lives that were lost, for the mothers and fathers, for the workers at the facilities, all of these things. Prayer is honestly the most important thing. Sometimes you may not see the results here on earth, but you'll see them in heaven. And so, taking that step. And the third is honestly to just be unafraid to share what you believe with other people. And I don't mean that in the way of all the time, like it becomes your identity and it's like all you can talk about or something. Or a debate and all of that, because that doesn't really draw people in, but more so of just be yourself. But if it comes up and you feel it's prudent to talk about it, and talk about it with strength and courage, because a lot of the times people haven't heard your perspective. And if it's a friend, I have plenty of friends who don't share the same position as me on this issue. But because we have, a cordial relationship and they know who I am, they'll respect it a lot, or they do respect it a lot more when I talk about my views. And perhaps they don't agree, but at least they're being open to hearing it. And that's better than, just not talking about it at all. And the second thing is that courage is contagious, because it only takes one to inspire others. And if we keep talking about it, we keep sharing more, people will be like, okay, maybe it's not just those right-wing extremists, right, who believe these things, and it's just it's my friend, and you put a face to it. I think ultimately that's what we need to do. So if you're looking to, to grow more in the pro-life space, get educated, pray, and don't be afraid to talk about it, in front of friends, in front of groups, and there's lots of organizations too to get involved. Like your local pregnancy resource center, they're always looking for volunteers. Sidewalk advocacy, if you want to do sidewalk counseling in front of Planned Parenthood, that's also available. And just different ways like that. If you are at a university right now and there's not a pro-life group, start one. Students for Life has a lot of resources. Equal Rights Institute as well. That's who USC is partnered with, or we're partnered with both. And then, and if there's already an organization, join it. And
So many resources, so many. And we're going to, all these that are Madelyn's sharing, we're going to go ahead and link them in the description as well, you guys, as well as Children's for Life, where they can connect with you. And if they have any questions, you know, if you're somebody in a college campus that maybe this is your go-to girl, okay? Like she's going to know how to help you, just, you know, different advice. And so, well, this is our end of our show, but I want to thank you, Madelyn, for coming on here, sharing. You're so brave. And I think it's amazing what you do, and it just shows that you do it with so much love. You know, are you getting paid to talk to people, or? No.
I wish.
I'm just kidding. No, you guys. Nobody pays people to be just genuine love to others, to care for others. So it's so amazing what you do. Thank you for coming on here. So happy to get to know a little bit more about you. Wow. And we're going to be praying for your ministry, for the group, for all the college students. And as well, we're going to link information, you know, if you've had an abortion before, you know, you're not alone. There's, like you said, resources, Rachel's Vineyard, all these things that we're going to list down there. And so thank you. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Fountain of Light. God bless.